Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled, My Wife, a 26-year-old female, has returned 1 year after leaving to find herself. How stupid am I for considering taking her back? And guys, this story is about a guy. He is 30 years old, married to his wife for 6 years, and sadly, a year ago, they were going to have their first child together, and it was a situation where it was a stillbirth or something like that. Child died, and understandably, she was very affected by this. Who wouldn't be? As well as him. But instead of trying to work it out with him and therapy and all that, she just abandons him. Abandons him and his 8-year-old son that he had with a previous gal. And for 1 year, she's gone. Left him a note. Didn't know where she was, anything. This is his wife. Then one day, shows up at the door. Surprise, I'm back. Hoping him to take her back and all that. And you're going to see, as you can imagine, this guy's conflicted. But ultimately, his senses will come to him and he'll handle this accordingly. And I'm covering this particular story for a couple of reasons. Number one, to make it clear, this is why it's so important that you really take the time to get to know someone before you get serious with them. For a relationship, and then, of course, marriage. You're going to see in this story, he knew her for 4 months before he married her. The dumbest thing in the world. I mean, he was like 24 years old and she was 20, for goodness sake. Right? You can spend years with someone, not only to see all aspects of their personality and their family and friends and all that, but also to see how people are during the thick and thin. It's easy to be with someone when things are going great, but when crap happens in life, as it does, you need to see how that person handles things. Do they handle it in a mature adult manner and resolve the problem, or do they implode? Do they take off from responsibilities here? He would have obviously seen how she handles bad situations if he was with her long enough. And also, guys, you got to understand that if you're going to do marriage or even relationships, you need someone that can be a good partner. And I don't mean that like in the politically correct way, a partner, a teammate, to help you with raising kids and all that. And if you can't trust her or him, then obviously it's not going to work. And him taking her back would be crazy, because I would just give her the idea like, hey, I can do anything, and this guy will take me back, which will invite more BS behavior, and he won't be able to trust her. So you need that in a marriage and all that. So it starts off, says here, my wife and I got married 6 years ago. I proposed to her after 4 months of dating. Smack! Are you out of your freaking mind, dude? You don't even know her. That's the honeymoon period of the honeymoon period. But at the time, he was 24 and she was 20 years old. And we were married 3 months later. Smack! Idiot. You could call it quick, you think. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it felt right. So it was me, my wife, and my son, who is now 8 years old. Well, women are all about their feelings. Men should be logical and rational and all that. Maybe you're looking for a mommy to help raise the kid. I don't know what. I'm sure she was a hottie. I'm sure she said all the right things and she was great in the sack and all that. But where did this get you? All right? Things were great. We found out we were expecting our first child together and we were over the moon. Sadly, our baby was stillbirth, and that started the fast decline in our relationship and sent her into an extreme depression. It was like nothing could help it, and I was watching my beautiful wife die while still being perfectly physically healthy. By the next few months, instead of waking up to her next to me, I woke up to a note of her telling me that she was going to clear her head. 1 week later, no response. Before I knew it, she came back and retrieved half of her stuff, and I was blocked on everything. So, understandably, she was destroyed over this. I don't get it, like I don't have no experience in this, but I understand pain. Okay, no problem. Then work with your husband. This guy obviously will do anything to help you. Therapy, whatever it takes, But just abandoning him and the 8-year-old who obviously saw you as a mother, and then blocking him on everything. I mean, no, there's no excuse for that. And by the way, if he'd gotten to know her, spent more years with her getting to know her, he may have seen what she'd been like during hard times. It hurt, I lost my baby, and my wife left me in a matter of 2 months. I went into a pretty deep depression while also having to shun it away from my son. Things were hard. I bet they were, Dad, but you had to take care of business. You had to take care of your boy. He needed you, and he lost his mom, I might add. But this poor guy, his wife abandons him. He lost the child. But notice he's not abandoning his son or taking off for the hills. Things were hard. I was pretty much on autopilot and became severely underweight. It just started feeling good getting back into society. It just started feeling good, and I was getting back into society with closer connections to good friends. My wife never came back during that time period, and I was just wondering when I'd be hit with the divorce papers. As you want to know, and you want to know who showed up at my doorstep at 5 o'clock this weekend? My wife, as in 5 o'clock in the morning. There were so many things I wanted to say to her. I wanted to know she was okay. I wanted to beg her to come back. Smack! Are you shitting me, dude? I get you were in love with her and you had a roller coaster of emotions, and by the way, she showed up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She couldn't wait until after 8 a.m. when he had his coffee to show up. No, 5 a.m. But anyhow, no. But at the same time, I wanted to tell her to leave and never come back. She came in and said that she spent the last 8 months 300 miles away and said she wanted to work on us. That's up to me, sweetheart. And what have you been doing for those 8 months? It was a year, so your math is obviously wrong. What were you doing? How are you supporting yourself? We have a life here, and I was taking care of everything. And by the way, who were you with, little missy? I smiled, and we almost had SCX. I took a good look in the mirror, and I couldn't believe how stupid I was being. She came back, expecting me to welcome her with open arms. And that's exactly what I did. I empathized with her deeply, and I saw how bad everything affected her, but 1 year. It felt unforgivable. I told her she needed to leave, and now here I am on Reddit, asking how do I proceed. Bro, you can't trust her. She's not a good wife or teammate. I get she was in pain. Fine, that's fine, but abandoning you and your kid, and then blocking you, and leaving you to take care of everything broken, having no idea where she is, what's going on, any of that, and not to mention having to pay for everything. Oh, no. There's no taking her back. And I get there was a party that wants to believe she's changed and you remember who you thought she was, that thing, but you can't take her back. And what about your boy? You know, he's going to have serious separation issues and things like that, attachment issues. So, no taking her back. And by the way, I'd be saying, and by the way, bitch, you ever show up at 5 o'clock in the morning again before I have my coffee, you're going to get something. Now, a few comments here before I get on to how he handles this appropriately. One guy says, she left to find herself. Presumably, she was hurting from your lost child and needed to get away from perspective. It's fine to be empathetic towards her for that. She went through a very hard time. But you know what? You lost a child too. You had your own grief to work through, and she abandoned you to do it alone. She's not a good partner. Fine, if things are so screwed up, she has to leave, then okay. But she doesn't get to go choose to come back and pick things up where you left off. I don't know how you could ever build that trust back again, and I'm not sure why you'd want to try. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if she said to him, in all honesty, I really need to go to the beach for a month, or I don't know what, something like that, that's understandable and reasonable, and he had reason to trust her, okay. But just disappearing? No. Another one. I'm really surprised you didn't get divorced during the year. Something must have changed in her to make her come back. She was gone for a year and just decided to work on things. Bullshit. She had another life for a year and something didn't work out. Call a lawyer now. Yeah, exactly. Better call Saul or whatever. Yeah, work on things. We know usually that means. Now for his update as how he handles things and redeems himself. He says, for the people who wanted the short answer, I'm not going to try to work things through. Thank the Lord. Let me explain. I saw many comments suggesting that she's been dating, hoeing around, and even some indicating she's gotten pregnant. False. Like she said, she went to heal, and I believe her. Because when I tell you she was depressed, I mean it. Got to the point where I had to make sure someone was in the house at all times, just to make sure she didn't off herself. And I don't feel like arguing on the topic with people that don't know her. My friend, do you know how many guys have said the same things about their wives, girlfriends, fiancés? Oh, you don't know her. And then guess what? She does things that backs up what we all sadly know. You know, is it possible that there wasn't no other dude and she wasn't dealing with it by, having 20 different dudes? Yeah, it's possible. But nothing? You haven't heard anything from her friends or family during this whole time? That's the whole crazy part. You think you'd be reaching out to her friends, her family, where is she, blah, blah, blah. I didn't hear anything about that. So, what, she was just, cruising around the country 50 times over the course of a year? No. I've been thinking too fairy tale like when I saw her. Probably because that's how our story has been. Fell in love quick, married young, and thought it would be together forever. When I'd seen her for the first time in such a long time, I saw my wife. The woman I fell in love with, my best friend, my life partner. Well, she sure as hell wasn't treating you like she was in love with you or you were her best friend. That's who I instantly saw. But one quick look in the mirror and a few days of thinking about it got me realizing that the same woman I married was not the woman who left me. Correct. Or you had it made during the honeymoon period, but once things got incredibly difficult, and of course the stillbirth was incredibly difficult, the real person came out. That's why you take years to get to know someone before you marry. This past year has taught me, and I had to think back to how I was feeling the previous day before she showed up. I felt very good that past day. I spent the day with my son before dropping him off to his mom's. I went to a bar with friends and slept peacefully in my own home. In other words, this guy was moving on. My wife hadn't crossed my mind at all in that time, the entire day. I've been happy beyond that past day. There's only one other person in my life right now that I need, my son. He's the reason I kept going every day. And for the quick moment I considered trying things out with my wife, it was incredibly selfish towards him. I mentioned this before, but he truly is a great boy. And that's awesome, and I'm sure he's a great boy. And you know what? He doesn't need that confusion of her coming back in the picture. He's going to have serious abandonment issues. I mean, already he and the boy's mother are either divorced or separated. I mean, this kid doesn't need this kind of bullshit. And this guy is finally moving on. Notice, guys, in these stories, and maybe you all have some personal experience in this, you get your heart broken, you get dumped, cheated on, abandoned, and you finally move on, and then guess who's coming back, right? And they're always interesting how that works, and they always come back if they want something. If they don't want something, you're not going to hear from them. I do still have love for her, and I'm happy that she's all right. But we're over. I told her this. We went out and spoke about everything for hours. We finally cleaned out everything from the nursery. She got most of her stuff, and she'll be back to get the rest. She'll always be a part of my story. There's no erasing her or the love we had. What we had was magical. Blech, magical at one point, but our story together ends at divorce. As for me, life's only moving, and I gotta make the best for it. So far, I have been, and it's been going good. Well, that's great, man. You've redeemed yourself. I wanted to smack the bejesus out of you for when she was at the door, and you know, but you redeemed yourself. And dude, you've been through a hell of a lot, and I commend you. Good for you for staying strong for yourself and your boy. But let me warn you here before I wrap this up. I guarantee you, is going to try to get you to change it. In fact, in the comment section, he mentions that she tries to get him to change his mind. And she absolutely will. Trying to make you remember the good times, and you're going to get the waterworks, and every sneaky trick known to man you're going to get from her to get you to give her a second chance. Don't do it, okay? Doesn't mean you got to be enemies. Don't mean you got to have ill will. But she's going to try every trick. And remember, if those tactics don't work, next thing you know, it could be shaming or trying to get your family involved, your friends involved, anything to sneaky trick to get you back. So be prepared for that. But you got to stand by what you believe in and also do it for your son, and that is it. And I strongly recommend in the future, because you're obviously a relationship guy, that the next time you meet a gal and you're thinking about having another stepmother for your son, that you spend a little more than 4 months getting to know her before you propose. More like 4 to 5 years, at least. And really getting to know her and seeing what she's like during bad times as well as good times. Otherwise, you could find yourself in a situation like this, and I don't want that to happen to you. That's what I think. But aside from that, you're doing great. Now some comments before we wrap this story up. And by the way, these comments will be followed by him responding. I think you guys might like to hear this. He says, one guy says, what was her explanation for why she handled things the way she did once, or what she had been doing? What made her decide to come back? Did she show any remorse? And our guy says, she said that honestly, it just started of her feeling like she needed to get away from everybody and everything. Then when she came back, she said she felt even worse, so she decided to really leave. Well, I get she had pain, and I felt bad for her and all that, but she handled it all wrong. End of story. He also says, and as for why she came back, it had been something she'd been wanting to do since summer, but she didn't have the guts to do that. And if she did come back in the summer, I do think that I would have taken her back just based on where I was at that point. She did show remorse. She apologized, handed me letters that she wrote wanting to mail them to me. I read each one. There were a couple for my son that I chose not to give him. I just read those ones with his mom instead. There you go. Another one, a guy said, I'm glad you found some resolution, but I hope it comes with some wisdom. When and if you date again, be thoughtful and deliberative. Take your time before rushing into marriage. Ding, ding, ding. This time around, you'll be doing the child's well-being, keeping the child's well-being in mind. Good luck. And he says here, trust me, not going down that rabbit hole, quickly getting married again. At the time, it sounded like a good idea to propose to her, but I was also 23, so that's that. But I don't regret it. Those first 6 out of 7 years, they really were good, and it taught me a lot. Well, I hope this whole experience taught you a lot. Another guy says here, glad to hear you moving forward and not resisting change. She made her choice and will now deal with the consequences. Understand that she will try to reinsert herself back into your life, romantically, especially after she realizes what she really lost. Stay strong and best to you and your son. And he says, I'm already experiencing it. I'm already expecting it. Because we met up probably 4 separate times since she's come back. And each time it's just give me another chance. Or something along those lines. And I've just been holding the no pretty down. So, good for him. He's holding out strong. But again, guys, you have to take your time before you get into a relationship. 6 months, in my opinion. And if she has a problem with that, okay, no problem. I wish you the best. And you move on to somebody else. Believe me, most pretty girls not used to being told, we're going to take our time and wait. They're used to guys trying to lock them down. And after those 6 months, then you move with caution. And you certainly don't get married after knowing her for 4 months. 5 years, minimum. And then you live with her for a trial basis to see what she's really like, God forbid you leave the toilet seat up. Or God forbid, the one time you forget to take out the trash. Or God forbid, any other little things. And if she goes nuts, then you know. At that point then, prenup and all these other things. So anyhow, as well as you can't take somebody back that does something like this. You just can't. And you got to move on. And this guy did. And good for him. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you got a great story that you found you want to share with me or want me to cover in this channel, email me strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it. I definitely will when I get the chance because I get a lot in all the time. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.